Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley. I have a very special guest on today. I have Gina Bianchini, who's the CEO and founder of Mighty Networks. That's actually where creators and brands grow businesses powered by community. Before she was at Mighty Networks, she was the first entrepreneur in residence at Andreessen Horowitz. Got some questions for you on that. And then in addition, she also serves on the board of directors at Tegna, as well as Scripps Networks, which is a $14.6 billion publicly traded company for HGTV, which my wife would love, the Food Network, and the Travel Channel. Gina, welcome. Happy to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Super excited. I love your background. You got some really cool things that you've done throughout your career. So can't wait to tap into that and understand. So, before we kind of get deeper, I figure it makes sense to do just kind of a quick revenue rundown so that everybody has kind of an understanding of where you're at in the journey now, not with what you've done before. And then we can kind of get into a little deeper there. So if we're kicking things off, what kind of range are you in for annual recurring revenue, or kind of where you're at in your revenue life cycle?
Yeah, so we have been over doubling revenue year over year for the last 3 years at this point. And we are north of 10 million in ARR, annual ARR. And so obviously annual ARR. And beyond that, we don't really talk about our revenue numbers, but it has been drinking out of a fire hose.
Can you give us a really quick summary about what it is exactly and what it does in like less than 30 seconds?
Yeah. So we give people a way to create online courses, online community, memberships and subscriptions, all in one place, all under their brand and instantly available on the web and every mobile device. The thing that I've always leaned into was just my ability to stay curious and to connect a lot of dots and to be open to learning a bunch of things and pulling them together, but not being afraid of what's new. So, God, it'd be so much easier to answer that question, Ryan, with like, oh, my ninja skill is marketing copy, or my ninja skill is like, I could sell, anybody on anything. I don't think about myself that way. I almost wish I did. It would make an easier answer. I work my ass off. I'm not afraid of anything. And I'm especially not afraid of being in the minority. Like, I'm not afraid of having a idea or a conviction or a mission that hasn't been done yet, or that people don't believe can be done. And so when you combine those things, I make a pretty good partner because I'm willing to go for it. The world bends towards niches. It bends towards decentralization. It bends towards building your own brand and your own corner of the internet. And that the most powerful and profound thing about the internet is the fact that we can each have our own websites and that we can each have our own cultures. And it just is this proliferation of new, unique, interesting, vibrant experiences. Not every brand needs a community. While I am a community maximalist, I am not a community maximalist. So, I think what is really important is what does a community bring to people? So number one, a community is a way for people to belong to something bigger than themselves. What do we know about brands? And again, as founders, it's like if you're sitting there listening to this and you're like, I want my brand to represent to people something bigger than any individual, but I want to build something more around it, then a community is an obvious thing to do. Community is also the single best way that any of us can build skills, build new practices, change our habits, reinforce the ones that we like, and make sure that we keep away the ones we don't, or if we want to change habits. Atomic Habits was the number one book anywhere in the United States last year. People have a hunger to change what they are doing in their day-to-day. And I would argue that a community is the single best way to do that. And hopefully that is not controversial to anybody when you look at the ways that communities have been applied and utilized for changing habits, changing skills. It's really not a matter of whether or not you charge, how you, like, do you have a freemium model? How does it work? I think it really comes down to, first and foremost, what is your goal? What is it that you are seeking to do? So for us, it is about how are we helping model community design and community building for that next million, which is our big ambitious goal, our next million hosts. And then how do we create a path for people that want to raise their hand and go deeper to get even more value from it? And that again is about how do we help people understand how to do this so that they can be successful, and then how do we help them continue to grow, stay on that journey.
Well, we're just about out of time, so let me do a quick fast fire. You absolutely crushed it, so it was a pleasure having you on, Gina. What would you say is your favorite book you've read in the last 2 years?
That's a great question. Fiction or nonfiction?
Doesn't matter, whatever.
I keep them separate, Ryan. Keep them separate. Okay. I actually would say I would say the book that kept me thinking well after I was done with it was David Goggins' book.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was amazing. Can't hurt me. I thought that was really, really good. So I really enjoyed that. Obviously, Atomic Habits, while I will be in the minority and a contrarian in many respects, apparently not in liking Atomic Habits as the most popular book of 2021.
All right. What's your favorite podcast or show that you listen to?
That is a really good question. I have really enjoyed recently Mike Birblia's podcast. Like, it's hilarious. He always has really interesting people. He's an improv guy. And it's like it's basically comedians and improv folks that are like working out new material. And my friend recommended it. Yeah. It's called Working It Out with Mike Birblia.
Okay. I'm taking a note of that. I could use a little humor besides all the nonfiction that I read,
Yeah, exactly. So that's the one I have really enjoyed recently.
All right. So who's your favorite founder or CEO that you follow?
I wouldn't describe him as either a founder or a CEO at this point, but I think that the person that is connecting dots and is doing it with such joy and smarts and humor is Packy McCormick and his Not Boring newsletter. I think he also might have a podcast, but I think that he is pushing the way I think about things further, faster, and with joy, in ways that I think are a net positive to being a technology founder and CEO in 2022.
You said Patrick McCormick? Is that who it was?
Packy McCormick. Not boring. Packy.
Okay. Packy. Okay. I love that. Is that a him? Yeah,
it's a him.
I've never heard of Packy McCormick before, but I'm going to check him out.
Once you hear about him, you won't be able to not see him everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay, cool. And then what's your favorite online tool that you can't live without besides Mighty Networks?
That's a really good, I would have to say, the things that I use every day, all the time, Slack, Mighty Networks.
Okay. And last but not least, what is your advice that you would give to your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
There'd be a lot. It would be longer than sort of one thing. But here's the thing that I would say is top of mind for me right now. So I'd probably lead with this, which is the inputs that you take in Especially today when there's just so many different ways and people and ideas, and especially skepticism and cynicism can just seep into our skin just by like quickly going to a website. Being ruthless about your inputs is the number one thing any of us can do for success, and to realize our goals. And this notion of making every day count, not in like a carpe diem kind of way, but literally it's like I have real goals in terms of bringing Mighty Networks and new and interesting communities to millions of people around the world as quickly as possible. I want to make every day count. I want to count this experience in days, not weeks or months, and make it count. And the single best way I can do that today is be ruthless about what I take in.
That's beautiful. I'm a big believer of that too. So, well, we are up on time. I could talk to you for another hour probably and hit you with tons of questions. So you did an amazing job, Gina. It was a pleasure having you on. Where can people find you? Where can they find out more about Mighty Networks?
Well, I know this might take people by surprise, but mightynetworks.com is a really great place to start. And you can find our community access as well there. And then I'm on Twitter at Gina B. I was early on the Twitters. So anyways, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for being on the episode, and I'll talk to you soon.